Okay, this section follows nicely from the last section, at least in the math portion. We're going to be looking at student loans, which are mostly calculated the same way as commercial loans, with one small difference that we'll talk about when we get there. But first, what are you going to do after high school? So you've got a few options. You're coming up on graduation soon, and that means if you haven't thought about it, it's time to start thinking about life outside of the K through 12 system. So an option you have would be community college, especially Richland. Since you go here, these are relatively inexpensive, and you can get some general education done or some career training done, depending what the community college offers. Another option would be a four-year university. These are much more expensive, much more expensive, but they tend to give you a higher value degree. So you can't do a whole lot with an associate's degree, but a bachelor's degree is a little bit more powerful. And the nice thing is, after you get your associates after 2 years in a community college, you can transfer to a four-year degree at a university, and they'll take all your credits from the community college. So you can get the first 2 years inexpensively and then move up to the more expensive option there. Another option would be a trade school or a career school. You can look at lots of different options here, things like automotive repair, building trades, so anything like concrete or masonry or electric or plumbing, those are all building trades. Cosmetology, vet tech, x-ray tech, and there's a whole ton more where you would go to, instead of a college, you would go to a specialized school where you're just looking at that trade. Another option would be military service. This is an option if you don't want to continue school right away. But the nice thing about it is after you complete your service, so usually like 4 or 6 years, then there's the Montgomery GI Bill, which will give you free college. So if you decide to take this option, this military service option, it will make continuing your education when you're done with that a whole lot less expensive. And then the last option is workforce. Go get a job. I would suggest, though, if you do this, try to find a job with good future potential. You don't want to be stuck doing the same job you were when you were 19 years old when you're 50. You want some opportunity to move up. But how do you pay for it? So we'll be talking about colleges and trade or career schools here. So whether you're going to a four-year university, community college, or a trade school, you want to fill out the FAFSA. So this is the free application for federal student aid. This is how you get access to most of the money that you can borrow to go to school. You'll receive a student aid report breaking down what kinds of aid you're available for. A lot of that's going to be loans, but depending on your situation, there may be grants and scholarships available also. And then as part of the SAR, there is an expected family contribution. This shows what the government believes your family should contribute to your education and is based mostly on parental income. This is not entirely fair because if your parents aren't planning on paying for you, the FAFSA takes it into account anyway. So sometimes it's not fair, but I don't really know what to do about that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about federal loans. So there are federal direct loans, which are called Stafford loans, and these loans come directly from the government. They go through a government servicer, and there's two types. There are subsidized loans, which are need-based, so it's kind of based on the income of your parents and based on your situation. And on these, students are able to defer interest. So that means that the interest counter essentially is not ticking up while you're in school. They don't charge you the interest until after you graduate. Unsubsidized loans are still coming from the federal government, but they're not need-based, and the interest starts from day one. So you don't have to pay the interest while you're in school, but it is being added to your bill, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So most lower to middle income students receive a combination of these two loan types. The lower your income is, the more unsubsidized you're going to get, and if you're more towards the middle or upper middle class, you're going to get the unsubsidized loans. There are a federal plus loan, that's an option, and this is a loan that your parents take out, so it's in their name, but it allows them to borrow money for you. They do check your credit on this though. And then finally, there is a federal Perkins loan. So this type of loan is for people that have exceptional financial needs. So they're going to really have a lot of trouble paying for college if they don't have any other options. So these loans tend to have the best interest rates and the kindest deferment periods because they are only for people who really need them. And there is a website here, www.studentaid.ed.gov, that has a lot of these options you may want to look at as you're considering college. Okay, let's get into the math though. So an example problem here. As an incoming freshman, Ariana received a 10-year, $9,100 federal direct unsubsidized loan with an interest rate of 4.29%. She knows that she does not have to make payments until 6 months after graduation, but interest will accrue in the meantime. If Ariana graduates in 4 years, how much interest will accrue over this deferment period? So to find this, you want to use the simple interest formula, I equals P times R times T, and go ahead and see if you can figure out how much interest she's going to take over this 4.5 years. Okay, her principal was $9,100, interest rate 0.0429, and there's the 4 years that she's in school plus the 6-month deferment, so that is 4.5 years, and that means that the interest over this term while she's in school is $1,756.76. Now, let's talk about her options. So from the last slide, she has a choice. She could pay the interest while she's in school, or she could pay in the grace period directly after she graduates. But if she doesn't, the interest will be added to the loan, and that's going to create a new principal value, and the monthly payments are going to be calculated off of that. This is called interest capitalization. So if Ariana capitalizes her interest, her new principal is $10,856.76. The loan term is still 10 years and the APR is still 4.29%. So use a loan calculator here. And what is her new monthly payment? Okay, her payment is going to be $111.43. So how much total is she going to have to pay towards her loan? Okay, and again, using the same payment calculator, the total of these payments is going to be $13,371.87. Now, let's say she takes the other route. Let's say that she decides against capitalizing her interest. She pays off the interest over the 4.5-year period, so the principal of her loan is only the $9,100 she borrowed. So the payment term is still 10 years and the interest rate is still 4.29%. What are her monthly payments? Okay, her payments are lower because she's taking out less essentially. So using a payment calculator, her monthly payment is $93.39. Now, including that initial amount that she paid, how much does she pay over the life of the loan? Okay, her monthly payments are $11,207.10, and she paid $1,756.76 in interest. So add those up, and she paid $12,963.86. So by paying off the interest early, she actually does save about $400 over the life of the loan, which if you think about it is only about $10 a year, but it is, or not $10, $40 a year, but it is something. I mean, it's $43 a year. You can go out to dinner. Okay. Oh, did I have the same slide twice? Whoops. All right, so let's talk about simplified daily interest. So in the last example, how would Ariana know how much to pay each month for interest? So she can use the simplified daily interest formula, which is just an extension of the simple interest formula. So it's I equals P times D times R over 365, where I is interest, D is the number of days since the last payment, and R is the interest rate. So let's say Ariana made her last payment on March 1st, and her next payment is April 1st. How much should she pay? So we plug in $9,100 for principal, 31 because there's 31 days in March, and then the interest rate over 365, and we get $33.16. And as one final note, always round this up to make sure that you're covering all of the interest. Okay, so that's all for this section, and bring questions to class, and we'll talk about it then.